Congress leader Rahul Gandhi has added fuel to the already raging Hindutva fire. After Salman Khurshid equated Hindutva with the Islamic State and Boko Haram, Congress continues to fire one shot after the other at Hindutva. Rahul Gandhi plunged into the fight claiming Hindutva is about targeting minorities. A furious BJP hit back at the Congress, calling Rahul Gandhi an Ichchadhari Hindu.
Is Hinduism about beating a Sikh or a Muslim? Hindutva, of course, is.
The BJP Congress face-off over Hindutva just got bigger. This time, it is Rahul Gandhi himself who has added fuel to the fire. The Congress MP has plunged right into the fight, firing shots at Hindutva.
Where is it written that you should kill an innocent man? I am unable to find this. In Hindu scripture, in Islamic scripture, in Sikh scripture. I can see it in Hindutva.
Speaking to Congress workers virtually while on a foreign trip, Rahul Gandhi picked differences between Hinduism and Hindutva.
Is Hinduism about beating a Sikh or a Muslim? Hindutva, of course, is.
The war over Hindutva has exploded and the flames are getting too hot to handle. In a blistering attack, the BJP has accused Rahul of inciting Congress workers against Hindus.
This pathological hatred for Hinduism amongst the Congress leader gets its traction, gets its energy from Mr. Rahul Gandhi and from the Gandhi family.
Union Minister Giriraj Singh said Rahul lacked knowledge of Bharatvarsh and Sanatan Dharma.
जिसके लिए सब कुछ केवल वोट ही हो, देश सेकेंडरी हो, से क्या कहना? संघ को लोगों को समझने के लिए भारत के सनातन इतिहास को समझना होगा, तब आरएसएस को समझ पाएंगे.
The BJP has called it an attempt by the Congress to appease Muslims ahead of upcoming state polls.
Rahul Gandhi, by coming out in the open and equating Hindutva to a violent ideology, when the Supreme Court of this India has opined that Hindutva is a way of life, very clearly indicates that the Gandhis are anti-Hindu.
Rahul's comments came right after two of his party colleagues, Salman Khurshid and Rashid Alvi, made similar charges.
If political pundits are to be believed, this war is going to get intensified as we head into the crucial assembly elections next year. With video journalist Ankit Singh, this is Supriya Bharadwaj for India Today in Delhi.
So after Salman Khurshid, it's Rashid Alvi, another Congress leader, who waded into the controversy saying not all who chant Jai Shree Ram are saints. Some are even nishachars or demons. An angry BJP hit back and hard, saying this reflects not just Salman Khurshid or Rashid Alvi's mindset, but the mindset of the Congress party and the Gandhis. Supriya Bharadwaj gets us more.
Those who chant Jai Shree Ram are demons.
आज भी बहुत लोग जय श्री राम का नारा लगाते हैं, वो सब मुनि नहीं, वो निश्चय हैं.
The words of Congress neta Rashid Alvi sparking a massive row. This was in a speech he gave at Kalki.
राम राज्य कैसा होगा? राम राज्य में नफरत की कोई जगह नहीं होगी. आज भी बहुत लोग जय श्री राम का नारा लगाते हैं, वो सब मुनि नहीं, वो निश्चय हैं. होशियार रहने की जरूरत है.
After facing a major backlash, the Congress MP was quick to issue a lame clarification.
मैंने हरगिज ये नहीं कहा कि जय श्री राम बोलने वाला हर आदमी राक्षस होता है. मैंने कहा है कि जय श्री राम बोलने वाला हर आदमी मुनि नहीं होता है. भारतीय जनता पार्टी की तो आदत है कि वो एक एक लफ्ज निकाल के उसको एक्सप्लॉइट करते.
The damage, however, was already done. The BJP was quick to pounce on Rashid Alvi for his controversial remark. The Saffron Party claiming the Congress is spewing venom on Ram Bhakts. BJP leaders also pointed to Salman Khurshid's claims in his latest book that Hindutva was similar to jihadi versions of ISIS and Boko Haram.
राशिद अलवी जो है वो बार-बार कह रहे हैं, उनका बयान जो है
हो और चाहे वह खुर्शीद सलमान खुर्शीद हो या सब बौखलाए हुए हैं और कांग्रेस जो नकली हिंदू का आचरण कर रही है वो बताए कि इन दोनों के खिलाफ कार्रवाई क्यों नहीं किया है, इसका जवाब उन्हें देना पड़ेगा।
जब तक राशिद अलवी और सलमान खुर्शीद जेल के सलाखों के पीछे नहीं जाते, ये हमारी लड़ाई चलती रहेगी।
Alvi's contentious remarks come even as Rahul Gandhi sought to differentiate Hindutva from Hinduism in a speech to party workers. He claimed that Hindutva teaches the beating up of Muslims. The Congress is now left firefighting controversial statements on Hindutva made by at least 3 of its leaders and counting.
The Bharatiya Janata Party has come out all guns blazing against the Congress party for its anti-Hindutva stand. While the fight over Hindutva and the anti-Hindutva stance is nothing new, it's probably the timing which has caused this huge controversy. Ahead of the all-crucial UP elections, the grand old party may have just set the agenda for the BJP.
Bureau Report, India Today.
So is all of this a part of a well-thought-out strategy to fight the BJP on a pitch targeting Hindutva? Joining me on India First, Rakesh Sinha is Member of Parliament Rajya Sabha. Aishwarya Mahadev is the spokesperson of the Congress Party. My first question is to Mahamandaleshwar Swami Dr. Umakantanand Saraswati Ji Maharaj, the Mahamandaleshwar of the Juna Akhada. Mahamandaleshwar Ji, in your appreciation, I want to understand from you as a spiritual leader, is there a difference between Hinduism and Hindutva?
No, there is no differentiation because Supreme Court says Hindutva is a way of life and Hindu is life. Hindu is body and Hindutva is soul. What we live, all virtues and things are in action is Hindutva. And our body is Hindu. We can't differentiate from Shiva and Sivatva, Apna and Apnatva, Bhakti and Bhaktitva. So Hindu and Hindutva is same, no differentiation.
Aishwarya Mahadev, merit then in the BJP saying that Rahul Gandhi's statements reflect a pathological hatred for Hinduism and the repeated attacks, whether it's from Salman Khurshid to Rashid Alvi, they are not a coincidence, but an experiment.
You know, Gaurav, first and foremost, with full respect to obviously the very learned Swamiji here, as well as the 1995 judgment, I just want to make a clarification that the Hindu Dharma has existed for 4,000 years, while the concept of Hindutva first came into discourse or dialogue from 1920s onwards, where the ideologue of the Jansangh and the Bharatiya Janata Party himself, Shri Veer Savarkar, who, you know, is so revered within their party and their ranks, himself said there's a massive difference between Hindutva and Hinduism. Yes, of course, everybody would like to believe they're synonymous for each other, but the idea of Hindutva in itself, if anybody has read Savarkar and the dialogues and the tracts from the time he spent in prison and the sort of discourse that developed after, you realize that Hindutva is a political ideology that stems off from the Hindu Dharma, Gaurav, first and foremost. And yes, a lot of people would like to believe they're synonymous, but I think they stem from ideas extremely different. Second, you're talking about
So
Mr.
for the
Khurshid
Congress
and
party,
Rashid.
Hindutva is Savarkar's Hindutva and nothing before that.
Well, the first time that the concept of Hindutva as a term itself came into existence, seeing is how it was 1921. And then in 28, you saw Hindutva, Who is a Hindu, as a book being published also by Mr. Savarkar. While that word did not exist in, let's say, discourse before that, I would agree. The fact of the matter is the Hindu Dharma is far more plural and inclusive than the idea of this territorial narrative of who is a Hindu according to Hindutva. And Gaurav, the fact remains that you cannot call them synonymous at any point. We are followers of Hindu Dharma, while Hindutva is a political offshoot of it, which obviously has far narrower goals.
Fair
And
enough.
if you want me to
Rakesh
talk about
Sinha, Hinduism is love, Hindutva reflects hatred. Rahul Gandhi makes this clear distinction. He claims it's a clash of two ideologies, the Congress ideology of love and nationalism and the BJP RSS strategy of hatred. And Aishwarya Mahadev says this concept came in the 1920s through Veer Savarkar and not before.
You know, I don't expect Rahul Gandhi and his ilk to understand the difference between Hindutva and Hinduism and the commonality between the two. Because I know that they are political creatures and their life and breath is vote bank politics. But I am just making clear for your viewers, Gaurav, Hindutva is an expression of essence of Hinduism. That is a contextual expression. Every time, because Hinduism is not merely a philosophy, it is an experimental philosophy which believes in diversities. And there is a core difference between Hinduism and all other religions of the world. Therefore, in Hindi, what I called Prayog Dharmi, there is a constant experimentation of way of life, of diversity, and umpteen diversity. Now, how it is a contextual expression that I am explaining that. In 1875, in Bang Darshan, the Bande Matram was published, which is our national song. That Bande Matram was a response to the then contemporary socio-economic attack on the Hinduism. And Bipin Chandra Pal, who edited Bande Matram, and Maharshi Arvind, who edited Bande Matram, he responded the colonial action on the Hinduism. That time too, I am giving one instance everybody should know. Okay. Catherine Mayo wrote the book Mother India. It was a contemptuous attack on the Hinduism and the Indian people. And why that book was there? Because in 1926, there were merely 6,743 Europeans ruling over the 24 crore 70 lakh Indians. Then Catherine Mayo contemptuously described Indians. That response of Mahatma Gandhi was Drain Inspector's report. How clever Mahatma Gandhi was, how intelligent he was. Instead of going in the debate of the Catherine Mayo's writing, he rejected the writing that not worth to be debated.
No, but
therefore,
my point remains the concept of Hindutva.
Not worth to be debated.
Swamiji.
Now, just one line, Gaurav, one line. One line, Gaurav, just I am ending with one sentence. That Congress party is committing suicide, political suicide, by degrading Hinduism, and it has been taken over by the jihadi brigade led by Salman Khurshid and his ilks. They don't understand the true, genuine character of India. The jihadi brigade under Rahul Gandhi had taken over the Congress. Now Congress is no longer
Okay, Aishwarya Mahadev has her hand up. She wants to quickly respond
Hindu
before
culture,
I come to Swamiji. Aishwarya, you want to respond to
It's absolutely disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting that a man who is a member of Parliament would use words like that, not only for a senior colleague, but statements such as that which we seem to normalize, and that is the DNA of the BJP. The fact of the matter remains that the BJP mounts its attack on perpetuating this idea of victimhood of the majority, while also using religious narratives in order to oppress, suppress, and completely subjugate other people. When you talk about Vivekananda, Swami Vivekananda, who's one of the greatest ideologues you like to co-opt within to the BJP and your ideology, he spoke about plurality. Where is the plurality you are coming out with? There's a sitting MP here, Gaurav, calling somebody a jihadist, and you believe that, this is the sort of parliamentary discourse that the party can rise above. The fact of the matter is, Mr. Khurshid has issued a clarification saying the only reasoning of why that statement was made. Sir, I did not interrupt. The only reason that statement was made was to say that certain religions distort the original essence of a religion and create these Frankenstein's monsters, as has been with Boko Haram and so on. And that is the reality. The BJP does not have the gall to sit and even talk about the real issues, while they will sit and have large diatribes about
the point
these
remains
religious
the issue came up, Aishwarya Mahadev, because of what Salman Khurshid wrote, because of what Rashid Alvi said, and because of what Rahul Gandhi said, none of whom are BJP members, madam. But since you've raised that point, okay,
there is more important thing to say.
This is where selective reading is absolutely dangerous, and the BJP seems to be expert at it.
Okay,
respond, Dr.
No,
Sinha.
you are giving lecture as a kindly explain what is Vedanta. You are discussing on Hindutva and Hinduism. Now I expect you to kindly explain the millions of viewers of India today that what Vedanta means, how it is different from Upanishad. Anybody who does not, anybody who is coming to debate on Veda in Hinduism, Hindutva, and debating Savarkar is our ideological neighbor. Savarkar is not the final point in the Hindutva movement or Hinduism. Savarkar is one of the thinkers of thousands and lakhs of thinkers in the Hindutva and Hindu movement produced. Savarkar is one of them. So don't just explain what Vedanta means.
Let me bring in Swamiji, for what Rahul Gandhi said today.
I have a question to the Congress spokesperson.
Sir, allow me to ask questions. Allow me to moderate. Time is of essence. Sir, allow me to moderate. Rahul Gandhi Swamiji explained the difference between Hinduism and Hindutva to Congress leaders and workers at this workshop, saying, what do they have? Why do they have different names? Why do we use the word Hinduism and why not the word Hindutva if they are the same thing? Sir, they are obviously different things, says Rahul Gandhi. Hindutva is all about hatred and killing of akhlaq. That is what Rahul Gandhi claims, sir. Swamiji.
No. वो नहीं जानते हैं और समस्या ये है, हिंदी बोल सकते हैं?
जी निसंकोच।
वो नहीं समझते हैं पॉलिटिक्स में घबरा जाने, कमजोर हो जाने के बाद अगर हम धर्म को ही टारगेट कर दे और सेल्फ गोल कर ले, ये अच्छी बात नहीं है। और यहाँ व्याख्या हो रही है, उस पर प्रतिस्पर्धा हो रही है। कभी आप हिंदुत्व को समझ ही नहीं पाएंगे। ये लोग जो व्याख्या कर रहे हैं, बड़ी बड़ी बातें कर रहे हैं। अभी बातें हुई, हिंदू धर्म सनातन है। सनातन मतलब इटर्नल, एवरलास्टिंग, कभी नहीं पैदा हुआ। और जीने का जो तरीका है उसे हिंदुत्व कहते हैं, और वो जो भीतर का चीज है वो हिंदू है। अब इनको किसने सिखा दिया है? अभी और ट्रेनिंग की जरूरत है राहुल गांधी को। हम तो ये कहेंगे कि पॉलिटिकल इन्फिनिटी कॉम्प्लेक्स ऑफ राहुल गांधी। और जो राशिद अलवी कह रहे हैं कि जो जय श्री राम कहता है वो सारे निशाचर हैं, और फिर बयान से बदल रहे हैं।
जय श्री राम कहते हैं वो सभी मुनि नहीं है, उनमें निशाचर भी है।
मुनि नहीं है मतलब दुष्ट है। मुनि नहीं होने का मतलब ही हो गया कि वो निशाचर है। निशाचर शब्द भी उन्होंने प्रयोग किया है कि मुनि नहीं है, वो निशाचर है। तो ये इनको बोलने की जरूरत का, एक धर्म को जीने दें, सब अपने तरीके से मिलजुल कर जी लें। इस तरह के कंट्रोवर्शियल सेंटेंस बोलने की इनको जरूरत क्या है? जब इलेक्शन आता है, कुछ न कुछ मुद्दे आते हैं। इनकी मानसिकता कौन नहीं जानता कि ये सब गजवाए हिंद के दिमाग वाले लोग हैं।
ठीक, ऐश्वर्या महादेव उत्तर देना चाहती हैं। ऐश्वर्या, you wanted to respond. Why are all these issues being raised? Asked Swamiji whether it's Rashid Alvi or Salman Khurshid or even Rahul Gandhi before elections.
You know, Gaurav, first and foremost, you can sit and actually, if you had this panel, at least look through what exactly was said and also the context in which it was spoken. You will realize why this was a non-issue and why this has been twisted and turned, because the BJP obviously loves to meddle in its distractionary tactic. I obviously always assumed that the man in saffron was equidistant from politics, but then we've learned
the man in saffron is a very well-respected Mahamandaleshwar, Aishwarya ji.
Of course. Yes, sir, I forgot the name. The fact of the matter here, Gaurav, is that it is not political. These are statements and these are issues that have been obviously rocked out of proportion by the BJP. What Mr. Gandhi said is absolutely not wrong. What Mr. Khurshid has said about distortion of religion exists across the board, whether it's Semitic religions or whether it's the Hindu Dharma itself. What Mr. Alvi said, I'll give you one single example, Gaurav. I'm a devout practicing Hindu. I will also say Jai Shree Ram. I will also chant Shri Krishna. But when I see that chant being used to terrorize people, when we saw images of 4 people bloodied and dying on the street being forced to chant, that chant not only is an insult to my dharma, but it shows you exactly how these terms have been twisted and mutilated in order for political and narrow
so for that will an entire religion or a way of life, as Swamiji puts it, be targeted.
Entire religion. I have not
a way of life. Hindu plus Tattva is Hindutva, says Swamiji. If that is his interpretation, what is Rahul Gandhi's interpretation? It is not Hindu and Tattva, Hindutva.
you know, somebody asked me whether I knew the Ved. I assume it's the Vedas, not the Vedanta, and the Upanishads and the Gita and whatnot, sir. If you want to have a dialogue, we can have a very fruitful one. But the fact of the matter is, this term, sir, find me Hindutva as a term written anywhere in these scriptures. Find me anything before the 1900s where this term even exists as anything beside a political tool.
Professor Rakesh Sinha did in 1898. He did also in 1892, way before Savarkar. But that's not the point. The point is, you know, is the timing of the statements, the number of statements, the question that is now being asked. Is this with elections in mind? We leave our viewers to judge that. But Swamiji, Aishwarya Mahadev and Professor Rakesh Sinha for joining me here on India First. Many thanks. I've run out of show this evening, but this is a story we'll be tracking very, very closely. Up next is Udayan Mukherjee in an exclusive conversation with Sanjeev Bajaj, Chairman and Managing Director of Bajaj Finserv. Business Today comes up next.